what everybody hit on here that's very important is, you all are very young, and you're learning. And you're learning, and you know the people that are the obvious people. You know, the people that, the go-to people, everybody knows all the, but there's a wealth of incredible musicians that were mentors, you said it, that really, really were the meat of the music, right? They were there, they would give of themselves. Melton and I had conversations about Frank Foster, another person that would always give, you know. And these people are important to keep in the forefront of everyone's mind, because if we don't keep them alive, then they just wither away, and you're losing an important part of your education. It is very, very important. Tracy knows, I'm an amateur armchair archivist. I have so much, Tracy gave me a bunch of video, and I digitized it, and I'm trying to find a home for it, because it's really important to preserve this history. You know, it's so important that you guys understand why everybody talks about Black Lives Matter, why people that look like me couldn't go and stay in a hotel. We could go and sing and play, but we had to go somewhere else to live. You know, and these kind of things, it's as important as music. They go hand in hand. And it's important that you guys realize and know this. So that's why a panel like this is so, so important. And it should happen all the time to make you guys aware of these things.
So,
and as Mr. Mustafa knows, everything with me turns into a history lesson sooner or later, and that's, of course, one of the things we're here to talk about. Before I go any further, I do hope that Ms. Yarling's archive can find a home, maybe here at the university. I'm making a big noise about that because this stuff is important. The materials that I gave her came to me from a jazz lover. This was a lady who just recorded and kept everything. She's passed on now, I guess, about 10, 15 years ago. But the stuff really is priceless, and I hope that you guys have a chance to check it out. But backing up to history once again, Mr. Jones Jr., I'm curious about that period when everything was happening in Overtown and Liberty City, and then it wasn't. What happened after the bottom fell out, if you will? You know, when things went south, I guess, after the interstate came through, I imagine is when trouble started, yeah. So how did you guys survive? Where did you play after that?
you know, after they started building I-95, they went through over town, that separated and kept, I mean, all the jazz clubs just started folding down. That was a very horrible thing for the musicians, because, like I said, the bulk of the jazz club and the hip places was over town. Although, to some people, a lot of people, some people, when you mention over town, they said, what? No way. But over town was the hippest place in Miami during those days for jazz, for music. And I'm so sorry that the majority of you all didn't get a chance to be there on the scene, because it would have been paste to your mind if you would never forget the great times in jazz and in music that we had going on. Right now, I would like to piggyback what Tracy and Nicole brought up. And I admire you, Nicole, that you have kept all those things together.
You guys are important.
And I'm going to say this to myself. There needs to be a facility that's dedicated to my brother, of all the things that he's done here in Miami, for students. some kind of way, let's make it happen. It don't have to be here. It could be here or there, but somewhere in Miami, because of all the things that he's done for the kids and grown-ups and music and just being a humble person to everybody that know him and knew him. It would be a great thing, a great honor.
Yeah. So, might be a building that needs a name somewhere.
So Melton Mustafa, he started a nonprofit. It's entitled MSM Arts, and it's dedicated to preserving jazz, jazz culture, giving opportunities for youth to take lessons and to experience jazz concerts and things like that. And it's still going on, so we're going to continue with MSM Arts and the Jazz Festival. And the reason why I wanted to close with this, well, I don't know if we're going to close now, but I want to say it again because the last weekend of February is going to be the Melton Mustafa Jazz Festival, and it's the 25th annual, or the 25th anniversary of the Jazz Festival. How many of you guys have been to the Jazz Festival, or at least have heard of it before? Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to say it more, and I need you guys to repeat it after me to make sure that other people know about this Jazz Festival, because we bring in the top names, the top jazz names, and we would love for you to come to hear this swinging jazz band.
You know what, I'm gonna say, break you off and say this. Did you know that the Melton Mustafa Jazz Festival is the only true jazz festival that's been going on for so many years right here in Miami?
That's right.
Did you know that? It is true. Check it out.
So we definitely want you to come by and check it out. You can be a part of the workshops. We're going to have an all-star lineup. We're going to probably announce the lineup in maybe about 2 or 3 weeks. So if you want to start getting your tickets in advance, you can. You can save the date now. It starts on the 25th, 26th, and 27th of February. It's going to be at the Historic Lyric Theater in Oakland Town. So, we wanted to have this panel discussion. These are some of the great minds in this thing we call jazz. Great Nicole Yarling, great educator, jazz educator, vocalist, and violinist, and amongst other things, composer, arranger. She does it all. Tracy Fields is a dear friend of the family. She's been around for many years supporting jazz, giving us opportunities to perform, and she plays our records. So you probably listen to her on the real Tracy Fields Jazz Show, right? Yeah? Can you make some noise for that? History is in the house with my uncle, Mr. Jesse Jones Jr. And every time I spend time with them, I'm learning more about the culture. I'm learning about history. I'm learning about life. This thing called jazz is, every time I think I have something, I find out that I need to work on it a little bit more. And it's humbling, but that's the way jazz is. And these guys can tell you. I went over by Brian Lynch's house maybe about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. And before I could get out of the car, I hear a trumpet player just playing. And he was going to town. And it was kind of late at night already. So I don't know how his neighbors felt, but...
You got to practice everything to work on things.
But the fact that he's not just a teacher, he's practicing, he's doing what he's telling the students to do. It's just humbling to see that level of concern, that level of dedication is just
I'm concerned about myself, too. And keep up with my students,
And Mr. Ettiene Charles, his band is freaking amazing. If you haven't gotten his records or heard his band, you need to check them out tonight on the way home. iTunes, Spotify, check them out because it's on a whole nother level. I think sometimes we don't know how much we actually have. I think sometimes we take for granted how much we have. And I would like to start a charge to really embrace our jazz culture, our jazz musicians here, and really support them. And not only, because I'm preaching to the choir right now, not only you guys, but bring a friend in. Because I don't think some of them know the level.
We do not. The level.
But tonight, after this concert, trust me, it's going to be all of that. Do you have any other additional questions for us?
To be completely honest, you pretty much addressed everything I could ever imagine.
I have one point that I must. Actually, 2 points. One, I'd like to thank the panel, being such a great panel. It's always great to be introduced to history when you come to a new place. But I want to encourage everyone here. Thank you for supporting jazz here at Frost, but I also want you to listen to your local jazz radio station. Okay, like a jazz radio station is a curated playlist. It's someone who knows music, knows quality. A lot of times it's a musician who knows quality and chooses music to then play for you. We live in a time now where radio stations are not getting as much support as they need. So listen and support your local radio stations. Also support your local jazz clubs or restaurants where live music is played, and also support your local jazz festivals. I say that's really important. That's how communities get built, and that's how they get sustained. And on top of that, when the story about Overtown, when I learned about the highway running through Overtown, how it really, put everything in array, it just reminded me that happened all over the United States of America. And it's important to mention that, it was a part of what was called urban renewal around the country, which we started calling urban removal. It happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And not just the Courtney massacre that happened in 1921, 100 years ago. But after that, what a lot of people don't know about is that then the town thrived again. The 30s and 40s, this is where Count Basie and people like Count Basie and Benny Moulton, that's really where the Basie sound comes from. It's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then, that's where you had Don Byas and all these great tenor players that were coming out of that sound. It happened in New York, in the Bronx, when they built the Cross Bronx Expressway. They just told people they had to leave. And it's something that you have to pay attention to. That why is it when communities thrive and culture grows that they then decide that they need to take the one thing away? And its business was thriving too. And so it's just something to pay attention to. And it happened in New York also with San Juan Hill, where Lincoln Center stands today. Thelonious Monk, Hazel Scott, Herbie Nichols, Benny Carter, Ram Ramirez, Russell Procope. They were all from San Juan Hill. Arturo Schomburg lived in San Juan Hill as well. And so it's just something I want you to think about, is to think about why and how can we make sure that does not happen again, because history has repeated itself over and over again. And the only way to not let it repeat yourself is to know the actual history. So just pay attention to those things.
It's very important to have consciousness of all these things. And culture and art is inseparable from the conditions of life and the conditions of people. And it's like read about Robert Moses.
Oh yeah.
And he was the one that concocted all those super highways coming right through. And where are we going to put them? Well, guess where? And what that did to so many cities.
He wanted 3 highways across.
He wanted one to go through my neighborhood.
Yeah, he wanted one going through the village. He wanted one going through the middle of town.
I lived in New York for many years, and I probably would have never had an apartment if Robert Moses had built his lower Manhattan Expressway like right through my house, right through the apartment that I lived in. Actually, still live in part of the time.
But we're grateful to have.
But I did want to mention one thing, because I think we're running out of time. Is that everything that was said about supporting the festival, the Melton Mustafa Festival. It's really true. You're not aware of what you have. It's just like 2 years ago, one of the last gigs I played before the pandemic hit. Melton Jr. very graciously and kindly invited me to be a guest artist. And I said, sure. And I come down to the theater, and who am I on the stage with? I'm on the stage with Nicholas Payton and Wayne Escoffrey. and it was on, right? and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
if only, and it was out there, but we need more of a relationship, right? And hopefully this here tonight is the first step of that. We are bringing as part of this grant that funded this concert tonight. We are also going to be sending a student group to the Melton Mustafa Jazz Festival. They're donating our services. And our students will both be helping out, performing, educating, and being educated, just in the way that you educated them. You've been educating them all week. We have had some really great times rehearsing the band and witnessing the way that our students have risen to the challenge. And I think you're going to see that. You're going to hear that and see it in a very few minutes.
So guys, can we take a picture before we go?
Sure.
Yeah.
We might have a photographer here as well.
Good.